Talking of plaudits, there's one team that doesn't deserve your plaudits, and that team has to be Manchester United. So I I'm trying my best to. Okay, so let me not laugh. Let me be honest. Let me be serious. Let me be like a very serious person. Many people have asked, what exactly is wrong with United? What's the problem? Who is the problem? Is it an Erik Ten Hag problem? Is it a board problem? Is it a Glazers problem? Is it a players problem? And it's a lot of people and a lot of parts of this problem that can take part of it. But I think the biggest problem United have, I'm sure you want to hear this. It's not the Glazers. It's not the players either. It's the coach. So, I was listening to Goldrich. I think he's a big streamer, a Manchester United streamer, after United lost to Tottenham Hotspur. And he talked about how the Glazer families and the board were the reason Arsenal were not doing well. He made mention of how these not Arsenal, Manchester United rather, why they were not doing well. And, he referenced Cristiano Ronaldo's interview with Piers Morgan some years ago, where he talked about how United facilities were old, dilapidated, and all of those things. I'm sure you've also seen stories and saw videos of the Arsenal tunnel, or United tunnel rather, leaking heavily when it rained. These problems are well documented. But you need to look beyond all of this and look at what happens on the pitch. Although I said before that the things that happen outside the pitch influence what happens on the pitch, that holds true. However, we also need to look at the role of a coach in players, in how a team plays. I talked about Mikel Arteta earlier, and one of the things I talked about was Mikel has significantly improved his Arsenal's team. They now play better. Players are now better in how they perform. There is a sense of family with the Arsenal side. With United, you will see none of those. Not players improving, not family feel, and not a connection between the manager and the fans and the footballers. There is a disjointedness about United that falls heavily on the table of the coach. I said about Stan Kroenke and what he used to be prior Mikel Arteta and what he is now. Mikel Arteta was able to change Arsenal's trajectory, not just on the pitch, but outside of it because of his personality. Look at Pep Guardiola, what he has done for Manchester City. Although there are other people working in the background, but his personality has been able to change how the fans relate with the club, how the players relate with the club, how the owners relate with the club. Look at Jurgen Klopp. Look at what he did to Liverpool. Transformed how the fans related with the club, how the players related with the coach and the club, and even the owners. See, here's the funny part. If you took a deeper look at what happens at Liverpool, you would realize that they just might be more shitty than what United have. But they had a coach whose personality was big enough, not ego-driven, but football and Liverpool-driven, to be able to cover some of the blushes of the owners, to be able to cover some of the mistakes of the players, to basically transform the club from a forgotten, I don't want to watch this football again, to one that people love. That is what a football manager does. It is beyond what you do on the pitch. It's about what you do outside of it. And Erik Ten Hag does not do any of this thing. His press conferences are usually very bland. His responses are always very defensive, always trying to explain why his team lost and not accepting defeat. His style of play is terrible to watch. No player, please correct me if I'm wrong, no player has improved in 2 seasons under Erik Ten Hag. You're asking yourself, how did we get here? And Slot is barely a season into Liverpool. And look at the improvement of Ryan Gravenberch. Look at how good he plays now. A player that Bayern Munich could not help to loan out. A player that many people had forgotten was one of the best players at Ajax some seasons ago. Even last season, he wasn't very influential under Jurgen Klopp. But look at what this man is doing with him. And the Slot, it's barely a season. And we can see the changes in Liverpool. Now, somebody will say, yeah, but he's not coming to meet a terrible team. Yes, he isn't, but he is also coming to meet a club centric atmosphere at Liverpool. And he did not come there to upset everything and just spoil them. He has improved on what he has. For Erik Ten Hag, he has not done anything. Now, people would say, but he has won the FA Cup, he has won the Carabao Cup, and while those conversations are true, while those arguments hold true, you also need to be holistic in your analysis of a coach. Beyond what he has won, as a fan, as a football person, would you say you are confident when you watch Manchester United play? Do you know what style they play? You look at Tottenham Hotspur, for example. Ange might have been terrible last season, but you know what they'll do. You are certain how they'll play. You look at Chelsea under Pochettino, under Maresca, you know what they'll do. You know how they'll play. You look at Oliver Glasner and Crystal Palace, you know what they'll do. You know how they will play. You look at Aston Villa and Una Emery, you know what they'll do, you know how they'll play. There is a sense of, I understand how this team would do in different situations. With United, there is absolutely nothing like that. And that falls on the shoulders and table of the freaking coach. I do not know what United fans or the board thinks of Ten Hag, but you see a manager who is out of his depth, literally out of his depth with this football club. And yes, I know United has a plethora of problems they're dealing with. I know they are one of the most complicated clubs to manage. That is not without its well-documented facts. But even if you are terrible, you need a manager who can embody the change you want to see. And I would have expected that United would have gone for a different manager. Maybe De Zerbi, maybe Xavi, somebody that can at least give the fans a sense of what is. Give them a sense of direction, not the haphazardness that Ten Hag is doing there. Again, his tactics, oh Lord Jesus. Oh Lord freaking Jesus. Did you watch United against Tottenham Hotspur? Did you see how terrible United played in the first half? And we could say, yeah, he was a certain Bruno Fernandes, which is true, but goodness gracious, United were easily thrown apart every time Tottenham went on the attack. This is a Tottenham Hotspur side that got a new manager last season, compared to a United team that has had a manager for the past 2 seasons. A manager that has brought in a lot of players. Onana, Delete, Mazurai, Ugarte, Casemiro, Hoyland, who else has he brought in? Anthony, he's brought in his boys from Ajax. And even till now, you can't say United are playing well. Like I said before, we can spread the blame across board. The board were faulty in having no structure in how United should go. They went about buying players they did not need for years. The idea that you could run football with the way it is heavily data-driven right now without having a sporting director and a team that analyzes all of these things before you make decisions and after you make them is terrible. But United ran like a clueless, masterless house, a train without a driver, just going as whatever, and they were a train wreck. However, even in the madness of United, we saw some progress under Jose Mourinho. We saw how they played. We saw them win the Europa League. We saw them win the FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, I can't remember. We saw progress under a manager whose personality was big enough to cover some of the flaws we see. And I think that's what United needs right now. A manager with a big personality, not a big ego. Ten Hag has an insanely bloated ego for a man that, well, has won 2 trophies, some would say, but it doesn't give you anything to be happy about. So for United, I think you need to do more than just talk. I think the whole idea that the board is at fault, I get it. Now you have a new team in charge, a new CEO, a new sporting director, poach some of the best administrators from some of the best clubs in England, from Newcastle to Brighton to Man City. So it means that the Ineos family and the Ineos group are trying their best to ensure that United has a structure, but you can't succeed with a structure when your manager is terrible. Now, I'm not saying Ten Hag is a bad manager. Maybe United is just too big for him to handle. Maybe right now he hasn't gotten to the level where he can deal with the entity called Manchester United. Because how are you this bad after 2 seasons? United should, and as a matter of urgency, let this man go. I know they don't want to go in that merry-go-round of sacking managers and employing managers, but you look at teams like Brighton. How is Brighton able to always get the right managers? And when they do not get the right managers, they are not too headstrong in letting them go. Potter, what's his name again? Roberto De Zerbi. They've just basically gone from, you know what? We will use ABC data to get managers. We use not just data, but how we understand football. There is a progression in teams like Brighton. Even Crystal Palace are making right decisions with the manager. I don't understand why United are still in this position. So for United fans, if you want to do well this season, you have to let this man go. I would have talked about United versus Aston Villa's match today, but it's going to start in a few minutes' time, and so I don't have time to do that. But United will have to do well. Hopefully, they win against Aston Villa when this comes out, although I doubt they will. But it's a shitty thing over there at United.